Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, did you know that Alabasta started over 20 years ago in the year 2000, Y2K? That's when Alabasta started, when everyone thought that the world was going to end. In this arc, there is a being, an entity called Lasso. Lasso is a dog cannon that Mr. Four used in his fight against Usopp and Chopper. But we find out later on that Lasso is actually a cannon that consumed a dog devil fruit. How on earth is that possible? Well, the person that makes this possible, Dr. Vegapunk, is gonna be the focus for this arc. Over 20 years, 2 decades, and we are finally at this point where we can answer the question, how can something like Lasso exist? If you don't know, now you know. You can check out my live stream reaction to the chapter on my Cole Requiem channel, link in the box below for all that good stuff. Of course, also on twitch.tv for the post-chapter discussion with the Tier 3 cast, number 1. Number 2 is they want to see my One Piece anime reaction content, edited on my Kingu-san channel, link in the box below. But first, it comes out on my Patreon unedited, and you can already see things like episode 1033 and 1034 episode reactions on my Patreon right now. And for this chapter review, as per usual, we're going to break it down step by step, piece by piece, first and foremost with the pacing of the chapter structure, then the character components of the chapter, and then finally the story progression components of the chapter. And I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta put food on the table, so we have to give a brief word to today's sponsor, which of course is none other than the Surfshark VPN. So most of you guys and gals are weebs, right?
Right.
It is what it is. That's who we are. That's what we are.
Goddamn right.
As a result of being us, sometimes we do go to these very dark and dangerous corners of the web. Some folks would say these spots of the web are not for common folk, right?
That's beautiful.
And when we go to these spots, we do so in the name of knowledge and, of course, for culture.
Correct.
However, as a result, we do leave ourselves vulnerable to outside forces. Whether it's phishing attempts, viruses, malware, you name it, there are going to be bad actors out there in the World Wide Web that are going to try and ruin your day. Well, Surfshark VPN, without a doubt, can shut down a lot of these bad actors. When it comes to your online security, online privacy, Surfshark has your back in so many unique ways with so many damn good features, like the clean web feature that can snuff out any malware, any viruses that may be in certain areas of the web that you're perusing. And mind you, Surfshark VPN can be utilized on all devices no matter where you are in the world. Whether it's iOS, Android, Linux, Macs, Windows, doesn't matter, Surfshark VPN can have your back. And what's also really important too is that your boy does have region-gated content.
Impossible.
It is what it is. But with Surfshark VPN, you can get access to my region-gated content, 1, and then 2, any other region-gated content on various other platforms like Disney Plus, like Hulu, like Netflix. Just simply change the location that you're located in, and then boom, just like that, you can gain access to a host of content that previously you had no way of getting. So check out Surfshark VPN in the description box down below and use code KOL, that is KOL, to get not only 83% off, but also 3 months free off of your purchase of Surfshark VPN. Thank you, Surfshark VPN, for being awesome. And now, back to the video. So, that all being said, let's get right into this chapter review with the pacing and the chapter structure. And this is a very simple and straightforward chapter when it comes to the pacing and the structure, which is muy bueno, muy bueno. For this chapter, there are a total of 4 parts. Number 1 are the oceans near Egghead Island. Number 2 is the Naval Branch G14 Island, which is separated into 2 different parts. Number 3 is on Egghead Island itself with Team Luffy. And then number 4 is back to the ocean waters near Egghead Island with the Sun Eagle. This chapter I thought was very well paced, and the structure for the most part I thought was very, very clean, really clean. In fact, I would say that compared to a lot of chapters as of late, this is, without a doubt, one of the better paced and structured chapters I would say in like the last 10 to 15 chapters, no cap. No cap. And of course, the core reason why is that this chapter is setup, where we have new character and location introductions and stuff like that. So it is a setup chapter, but as a result, it is a very, I think, a very well-paced and structured chapter. So I would say for this category, really good. After this, we have the character components for this chapter, which are really, really simple. But it comes with a slew of new character introductions. And first and foremost is Doll. And Doll has been on the minds of many healthy lads. I think for very, of course, without a doubt, very wholesome reasons, yes. Doll is a Navy headquarters vice admiral, and she's the commander of this G-14 base. She sports a dog collar on her neck, like Katakuri does for his left forearm. Hence, some folks calling her the female Katakuri. Lol, even though she's nowhere near as tall, as far as I can tell, that dog collar, those vibes are strong. Like Katakuri, who is absolutely powerful, she also has very intimidating and powerful energy. But her title card does not mention that she's a member of SWORD. The same goes for Tashigi, keep that in mind, where Tashigi, at least for the time being, Tashigi and Doll are apparently not members of SWORD. But who is confirmed now is Helmeppo. So number 2 is that. Helmeppo, for character, he is now confirmed to be a member of SWORD, the secret Navy organization. It has never been confirmed in the manga that Helmeppo was a member of SWORD, even though Kobe was confirmed a member of SWORD. It is actually revealed in volume 4 billion, one of these special volumes for films, and in this case for Film Red. So it's the first 3 million attendees of the One Piece Film Red, they get volume 4 billion. And in that volume 4 billion, it states that Helmeppo is a member of SWORD. And so now it is officially confirmed in the manga that that is the case. After that, we have Hibari for character, a new character. Hibari is a Navy headquarters commander and also a member of SWORD. And apparently Kobe has helped out in the past, let's say during the entire time skip and or maybe involving the Rocky Port incident, since apparently this one thing that we have never seen in the story outside of like Law and these like 100 hearts from these pirates, apparently it has ties to so many different characters, Kobe, Blackbeard, Law, and so on and so forth. Maybe it involves her as well, who knows. But because of her past with Kobe, she wants to also help Kobe as well and save Kobe. After Hibari is a guy called Prince Groose. Apparently you can say as Groose or Gross, whatever, it's up to you. I'm saying Groose, okay? So Prince Groose is a Navy headquarters rear admiral and also a member of SWORD. And we've actually seen him before. We've seen him in the Capone cover story in chapters 966, 968, and 969 cover page stories. He actually captures Lola instead of Chiffon by mistake, and then he beats Gotti. However, Gotti is able to free Lola from a prison cage that it's near the docks, near his marine ship. And we see that in the cover story of 974. So while we've seen Prince Groose in an actual cover story, so he's not really like new per se, now we know his name. And now he's actually relevant for this arc. And on a side note, some of the folks that we actually see near Groose in this chapter are actually shown in the cover story chapter on 966. So the girl with the Majin Buu M on her hat, we see her, and the guy who in this latest chapter, One Piece, whose face is cut off by a text bubble, we see his face in that same cover story, where he looks like some sort of marine Frankenstein looking dude. So those folks in that cover story are actually going to be relevant in the story now. Like literally almost 100 chapters later, here they come. Which of course means in the future, and hell. But again, we will get there when Oda wants to get there, which he will absolutely get there, make no mistake. And then finally for Groose, real quick, Helmeppo and Hibari refer to Groose as Your Highness, hence Prince Groose. So it could be a meme, or he could actually be royalty, Prince Groose. And then finally, of course, at the end of the chapter, Dr. Vegapunk, quote and quote. Like big quote and quote. So despite Vegapunk being referred to as a male in the past by characters like Frankie or Green Bull or Caesar, Vegapunk appears to be a young woman. Her design is somewhat there we go. Their design is somewhat similar to Uta from film Red in some aspects. And on their clothes, it says Punk 2 on the left side of their chest. The numbering is very similar to other machines that we've seen Vegapunk make throughout the entire series. Like, of course, the PX Pacifistas, or let's say the cyborgs on Karakuri Island, the homeland of Dr. Vegapunk. And it's also the same thing on Frankie's shoulder pads that both say BF37, that kind of stuff. So Vegapunk does speak as an old man despite their appearance. And Vegapunk seemingly made this gigantic metal shark with the Punk 3 on its fin. But its program was faulty because it couldn't override its natural predatory nature. And here I insert the Bruce meme.
Dory, are you okay? That's good.
It's likely that Vegapunk also made the giant robot, the Vega Force 12, that destroyed the shark in a single punch and saved, quote, save the Straw Hats. The reason why, of course, quote, saved, is because Vegapunk seemingly does not like pirates whatsoever. Whether it was always the case, or it's something that potentially they've been recently feeling, let's say over the past 2 years, because there was an individual 2 years ago, a certain hentai, right?
Ow! Hentai no! Naure! Ow!
That decided to blow up his old lab in his home island in chapter 592. So these could be new feelings for Dr. Vegapunk, but regardless, the Strats are at risk. And finally, for their character, there is a difference here between the scans and the official. Because in these scans, Vegapunk says, I work for the government. Despite my mediocrity, they call me their scientific genius. While the official says, I'm just a humble genius scientist hired by the government. So the idea of mediocrity, whether it's sincere or not, is not necessarily clear in the scans, but it's much more clearer in the official, where even though they're trying to humble themselves, they still view themselves as a genius without a doubt. There's still ego in Vegapunk, at least based on the official version of the chapter. You get that sense way more compared to the scans. And that is it. That is it for the character component for this video. And now we have the story progression components for this chapter. Numero uno is going to be Germa Double Sixer, have seemingly escaped or on the verge of escaping Whole Cake Island. Now, remember that in chapter 1048, we do see Brule talk to Cracker about Ichiji and Reiju. So I think right now, it's too early to call if the cover story with Germa is over. And then also have to wonder, where is Judge in all this? Where is Vince Smoke Judge? We don't know. So again, this could still be ongoing, but it also could end on this cover story with a lot of questions left in the air still. After this story is Julie Bonnie. So Julie Bonnie is saved by Luffy, and the Straw Hats are separated by an attack from a, of course, giant mechanical shark. Now from here, we have to segue to a few bits here. Jinbei has to save Luffy and Chopper and Bonnie, and they all split up, like the usual Oda storyline, where the sharks have to separate and do like their own thing. The shark does act in some way like a living submarine, where it's outfitted with some sort of sensors, torpedoes, and cannons. And that idea, it gives you vibes of like a cybernetic weaponized version of the Shark Submerge of the Thousand Sunny. And notice how the Shark Submerge on the Sunny Go is in the channel 3, and this shark's mechanical number is number 3. So you have to wonder, is that a coinky dink? Probably not. Again, this arc I think is going to be a really Frankie heavy focused arc. As some Frankie fans would say, super Frankie Mundo. Cringe. After that, we have Frankie actually showcasing a new feature of the Sunny Go called the Rabbit Screw. It's a propeller turbine that accelerates the ship at high speeds underwater. Now, this turbine is actually not new, not necessarily new. It's new in the manga, but it was actually shown in a One Piece Film Z special back in 2012, which was called Glorious Island. You might have actually unbeknowingly seen parts of it because it's one of the specials where Nami wears that infamous rainbow bikini.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to...
And it's one of those specials that we actually first see this turbine. But there is a difference here where now it's actually sporting rabbit ears, of course, in memory of Carrot. Okay, hey, yo, that's toxic.
Why am I toxic?
Now, later on, of course, this giant mechanical shark is destroyed by the Iron Giant mech with the Buzz Lightyear boosters. And honest to God, it wouldn't surprise me at all if with these boosters, this gigantic Iron Giant could fly. After that, of course, we see Tashigi again. And Tashigi, of course, is with the kids from Punk Hazard. This is a continuation of when we last saw Tashigi and the kids in chapter 793. So after Law had removed the toxins from the kids' bodies, they are now being treated and they are returning back to normal size. But I'm gonna say apparently, because as far as I can tell, they look the same. Maybe I'm going crazy here, but I'll take at face value where they are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's just that right now, at the moment, I can't tell that difference. After this, of course, Helmeppo and Hibari want to make a play on Full-O-Lead Island to save Kobe from Mr. All Day, Every Day, 24/7, 365, say ha 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 ha, Team Blackbeard. And Helmeppo reveals that there are Seraphim on Egghead Island, and they could use these Seraphim to try and rescue Kobe. So one, a lot of confidence in the Seraphim, clearly. But then two, might be the reason why Oda is separating Jinbei with Luffy. Because there is the idea, of course, that the Seraphim are clones of former warlords, and Jinbei is a former warlord. So there could be a Jinbei interacting, meeting his Seraphim self in the very near future. That could be happening. And apparently, on a side note, Diaz Drake, ex-Drake, has not contacted Sword yet, even though it's been a few days or even a few weeks since Onigashima. I don't think he's dead, but whatever he's doing could be very relevant for the future of the story, especially if it involves CP0, since they almost killed him on Onigashima. After this, real quick, is that Prince explains that part of the reason why it's very difficult to actually invade Full-Lead Island is because of the sheer number of pirates that are there. And according to him, shootouts tend to happen on a regular basis, hence the name, Full of Lead, the actual lead from the bullets that are fired all the time during the shootouts. It appears to be the case here that this is a callback to the Ultimate Chapter 957, where Sengoku explains during that chapter that the Rocks pirate crew were always killing each other. And in the past, that island was the home base of Rocks, the Sebek, and the Rocks pirates. So it's very, very likely that a lot of these shootouts that gave it its moniker were also as a result of the Rocks pirates just going crazy and killing each other. They added a lot of lead to Full-O-Lead Island. After this, we have Luffy, Chopper, Jinbei, and Bonnie arriving on Egghead, the future island. It is a place where it is 500 years in the future in terms of its technological innovation. It doesn't involve any weird hyperbolic time chambers. No, at least as far as I can perceive it to be, no. The tech there, the innovation there is 500 years ahead of most of the world. And of course, it is the home base of Dr. Vegapunk. This island is a direct callback to Karakuri Island and the future country of Baltimore, the birthplace of Dr. Vegapunk. Some of the tech on that island, his home island, was centuries ahead of the rest of the world, and just by damaging some of Vegapunk's lab would warrant extremely harsh punishment. We even see cyborg animals on that island that have unique equipment and weapons, stuff like that. So now this island, Egghead Island, we actually see tropical plants on the island, palm trees. And it's warm enough for Luffy and company to wear thinner clothes, seemingly without any issue. So it seems like what Vegapunk failed to create at Karakuri Island, the device that could change the weather, actually warm up the weather, essentially central heating for the entire winter island. What Vegapunk failed to do back then, he has succeeded, or they have succeeded in doing on Egghead Island. This is why the ocean waters around this island appear to be very, very cold, Winter Island themed, where there's like a constant blizzard in the area, but actually on the land itself, apparently relatively warm, tropical warm. And this might have actually caused the warm eddy to appear in the previous chapter, because the temperature difference, according to Nami, must be very extreme somewhere to create a warm eddy of that size. Lastly, Bonnie traveled all the way out here by ship on her own. I'm saying it again. Bonnie traveled to the New World on a ship by herself with no crew to give Vegapunk a piece of her mind. To me, that's kind of crazy because the New World is like an extremely dangerous place. And she made it that far, let's say from the Red Line to almost Egghead Island by herself. Even if, let's say, she's the navigator of the ship and also the captain too, it feels like it's a bit much. But that's what we get. That's what we get. Wow. Okay. And then also real quick, last thing for Egghead Island, that's a diss. The name Egghead is based on an old school diss for some sort of genius, like some sort of bookworm, an egghead, some of that sort. So after this is lastly for story, Vegapunk appearing with this Iron Giant. And Vegapunk, despite despite previous statements in the previous chapters, they are a quote young woman. Now, why that's the case, I'm gonna save that for a future theory video. Several future theory videos on Dr. Vegapunk. Yes, sir, without a doubt. So I'm gonna save that for them. But keep in mind that right now, your boy is not buying the quote, this is 100% Vegapunk, end quote line. Hell no. I am not buying that sauce. That smells like old fish sauce. Very funky. But what we can see right now is that Dr. Vegapunk is openly hostile towards pirates for an obvious reason, and as a result might be an antagonist, a main antagonist for this arc if Vegapunk, let's say, cannot be swayed to the Straw Hat side. And that is it for the story progression components for this chapter. So, final thoughts. This chapter overall, I think, is a good chapter, honestly. This chapter is clearly a setup chapter, but it's a very intriguing setup chapter where we do have characters of old, like Tashigi, come back to the fray, and seeing the kids again, like Mocho, how they're doing, and of course Helmeppo, and how that involves Kobe, and we're setting up for maybe even the next arc, or the arc after that arc, because if we could be going to Blackbeard's territory after this place, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, like really? Because Blackbeard is like a prime candidate to be like the final villain of the story, but it could be happening sooner rather than later for Blackbeard's defeat. Maybe. And that tie in the Marines and Kobe? Woo! That's saucy. That's very saucy. But also Vegapunk and the mystery circling Vegapunk. This chapter makes theory glands salivate. For the past few chapters, theory glands have been overflowing in full force. So there is a lot to get to for damn sure. I have videos coming out for in the near future for damn sure. And if you're a lad, this chapter 2, the titillation, it's very, very lovely. So this chapter, simple setup, straightforward. I'm gonna say overall it is a 7 out of 10, a good chapter of One Piece.